Hello, everyone. Hello and welcome to tonight's Future of Football Extravaganza Book Club Hail the Sports stream slash discussion of books and now internet media. We are expanding our horizons. I am Teryn. I'm with the Twitch team. Pronouns she her, and yeah, I'm in this corner. I think that's a sports term. Corner.
Sounds good. I'm
I believe
Christina. I'm Christina. Pronouns she or they, and I'm also in the corner or a corner, any corner.
Yeah, I think we're all in a corner, so that's
I
great.
think so.
I assume
Yeah.
I'm also in a corner. I'm Emerald, pronouns she, her.
Cool. Yeah.
And-
So we are
Wait.
expanding. Is that everybody?
Oh no, it was me.
Oh no, did we miss someone?
Oh yeah. Hi,
I'm sorry.
I'm Jannae.
Today.
It's fine. Pronouns she, her, and I'm also part of the Twitch team. Okay.
Hooray.
Now
Sorry,
we've got
we jumped
everyone.
corners. I thought it was
Yeah.
clockwise, and I couldn't count to 4. But that's okay. Athletes are
Oh, and
famous
I
for not
learned
being
that-
great at math, so we're all athletes here. I am joining you tonight from Game 27 live. It starts now and it
Ooh.
continues for 15,000 years, apparently. Still going strong. So I guess Denver, right? It was originally a Broncos. Steelers.
Yes.
Yes. Those are
Steelers.
sports
Broncos,
teams.
Steelers.
Those
Despite
are
this
teams,
being
yeah.
a work of fiction, it involves real sports, kind of. So yeah, let's start off a little bit with an introduction about the future of football. So I am I am a big fan of this. I read this a few years ago, and then had no idea what to make of it. But I really enjoyed it, and I thought we could talk about it on our book club. So it is a speculative fiction, interactive text adventure kind of a deal. It's sort of a mix of webcomics, web pages, video experience, saxophone background music in space, about space probes, looking at sports in the distant future where humanity lives on and has solved all problems except who has the football. So yeah, that's a little bit of a background, a bit of a world building. I guess we'll start out. What did you think about it? I guess did you enjoy it? Do you enjoy football in general, or was this sort of a new window into football, but a lot different?
Let's just say I was very grateful that there was not very much knowledge needed of football. It's like, is this like normal football? Probably not. They probably don't play for like hundreds of years, right? Like, end zones
Maybe.
are like at each ocean. Like that's probably not how it is now, but I wouldn't know.
Yeah, last I heard, I think we're coming up on what they call the preseason. Maybe it started. I'm not sure. I didn't see them make their own like Fight Island, so I'm not really sure how they're doing that. I don't know if any of you else saw the UFC Fight Island that they built for
Nope.
the UFC, which is the fighting mixed martial arts tournament. I don't think football's doing that, so I don't know how much they've changed.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah.
That could be a game. It's so open ended. There are so many other games that you could make. Yeah, Christina, what did you think of it? Okay. Are we back with the sports ball? Can you all hear us? It looks like we're good. I see a green light on my end.
Looks like it's good.
Looks like we're good.
Oh, I
Okay.
see us again.
Okay.
Awesome. All of
Yay.
our beautiful faces.
Yay!
Jannae, go ahead.
Touchdown.
Yeah, touchdown. Yay.
We did it. team.
Jannae, go ahead.
So I thought the story was really interesting, and I thought the way that he told it was also just so novel. I had absolutely no idea what to expect. I was reading it on my computer, and just like the way that it was formatted, somebody walked by and was like, it kind of looked like you were reading about like conspiracy theories or something. It was just like very strange and like and like I didn't know what to expect, so it was like a very pleasant surprise. And I liked like the videos. I liked how much, I don't know, just like the graphics. I liked the music, but it was also difficult for me to follow who was saying what. I know there were different colors, but it was like the characters changed kind of in every chapter. I'm like, sometimes I wasn't sure if I was like, if we were following the sports, or sorry, the space probes, or if it were like talking to a football player. But other than that, I enjoyed
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I know what you're saying about being confused and also but liking it. Like I really liked
Yeah.
the different format because to me it felt like the whole thing was a puzzle. Like while I'm reading it, I'm also trying to figure out like who's talking to who here, or like wait, the
Yeah.
text goes up now. Like it was like part book, part escape room or something.
Yeah, it definitely made it like really compelling to like want to finish and like keep reading
Yeah,
to understand
interactive,
what.
gripping.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, and it was interesting how they sort of switched between like text and talking were presented the same way. Like the space probes aren't like in a group, they're in a group chat, not like a phone call. So, but they could also talk to people on Earth. So they were also like, chatting it up that way, which I don't think was text messages, but it was unclear if it was, or it could have been text messages. They did make contact with the people. I took some notes because this is not, I wanted to kind of remember my favorite moments from it, and one of them, I just have the words first contact fart down here.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
When
that's right.
Juice decided that the first word humanity should hear from their long lost space probes was fart. Just for the mystery.
Juice is the best.
Yeah.
Like my favorite character. If you could have a favorite
for
character,
sure.
that's a space probe,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah.
Silly
That was
character.
sassy.
Yeah, Juice was a lot of fun, and it also was fun having like a non-American space probe as well, trying to make sense of. Or, what's the opposite of a safe word that lets you start doing something? Is it fart? It's fart. It's always fart.
It is now.
It is now. Yeah, so it was fun with Juice. We all love Juice, I think. I'm not trying to speak for the group. I think we all love Juice. And it was fun having like a European try to understand football. Even this like abstraction of football was super fun. And like, I don't know what your guys' relationship with sports is. I guess we can talk about that next. But like for me, it just kind of happens around me. Like my whole family loves it. I've never been a part of it. I couldn't play it as a woman, as a middle schooler. As a child, I was not allowed to play football, despite being able to throw a perfect spiral. So I played every sport but football growing up. Eventually landing on soccer for the most part. So my like relationship with sport was like I appreciate it. There's something ridiculously bonkers about it that I can appreciate. But I kind of love this version of it where it's like it's more of like the wholesomeness of sports where it's like everybody loves a common thing, and I wrote this down somewhere where it's like it's great because it's like the absurdity of it. Like it's brings people together because you can argue about something stupid for a while and there's no long-term consequences, or there shouldn't be, in talking about that, right? You can have conflict with people, but you don't have to like it's not about anything other than like sports ball, and so that's one thing that I like about it is that you can participate in discussion and argue about sports, but like at the end of the day it's about sports. So I don't know, like what do you guys like think about
it's just like more
ball?
about like bonding as a community.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think that's like a really important role that sports plays for a lot of people, is that it is this thing that everybody can kind of gather around the TV or at the stadium when that is safe, and be able to enjoy this experience. And even if you're like rooting for a different team than the person sitting next to you, you can still have a good time together. And I think that was, especially in this world that almost, it wasn't post-apocalyptic, but it had a feeling almost like that, where everybody's like, because nobody's aging anymore, they're kind of, this is what they have to look forward to and to live for now is play and shared experience. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah, for sure. I think for me, I really like the community aspect of sports. That's kind of like how I treat football. I don't really understand the nuances or a lot of the rules of sports, or of football.
Same.
But I like hanging out with people, and I like bringing food over to people's places, and we're like, I don't know, just like having that community. And that's like why I like the Olympics so much too. But I also like appreciate the like physical like ability that these people have. I think it's very impressive. But yeah, just like seeing or reading about what football looked like, I still liked that in the future. I still liked that it was still very much like a community building sort of thing.
Yeah, and it wasn't, post-apocalyptic, but it was a very different, like, things were very different, and I think that really kind of drew me in more and, like, made it relatable. Like, everything's so different now in real life, and everything's so different in the 17776. How would you say the title? I don't know.
I just say the future of football.
The future of football.
Yeah.
Good. That's a good choice, because every time I try to say it, I screw it up. So
Yeah, I say too many sevens, not enough sevens.
Yeah, it's like 1776 was a
Yeah.
different kind of year.
Yeah.
Probably still some form of football, not, I don't know, maybe that's the prequel. Whatever they were doing for sports then. But I think, can we keep talking? Is the stream still up?
I don't. It's
Oh,
not
yeah, the stream?
running on mine. Oh, okay. Oh, it came
Oh.
back. Okay, it stopped for a
Okay,
minute.
we're
and then
green
it's
again.
See it.
Okay.
There we are.
Okay,
Yeah.
green
Oh,
is good.
it's just
right?
like a flash.
Okay.
It's like a flash not running.
Oh yeah.
Blink and you'll miss it.
Yeah. So one thing that I also liked about this was that it also brought in some sort of like game design. Was like, these sports have changed so much even now. Like, there's just been so many rules added over time, and I love the nuance of like, what does it mean to have the football anymore?
Yeah.
They had to like discuss that of like, in the end of all things, like, in order to discuss something, what is it mean to be in an end zone? What is the plane that you have to cross to score?
Or like she's like, I would
Yeah.
put the football in the hotel safe, and that was fine. I'm like,
Yeah, the cabinet in the bathroom that nobody ever looks in or whatever. Like all the places where you have to like hide the football, or like learn rock climbing apparently because you accidentally put your field over a canyon.
Yeah.
Things that you have to kind of deal with on the fly. So I really like that aspect of it as well. Like, did you guys ever, when you were kids, like make up a sport with rules or just like a game with rules, and like it didn't make any sense, but
oh yeah,
you know, you went
like
with
Calvin Ball, right?
Calvin Ball. Yeah, that came to mind for me too. Yeah.
yeah, we played something called handball, which was just like you slap the ball towards a wall and then it came back. I don't think that's actually how handball's played. And then we played a game where you had to throw a tennis ball at a basketball hoop because just mix and match when everything else fails, right? And so we just if you hit the backboard it was like 5 points, but if you hit the rim it was like 15 points. Everybody wins because there was no end game,
Nice.
much like game 27, it was a mashup of sports that just never ends. Maybe we're still playing it, I don't know. I don't think we ever maybe it was rock paper scissors decided it, probably. That probably happened.
You can just declare yourself a winner.
Yeah.
And then if
for sure.
nobody challenges for 500 years, then you're fine.
True.
Yeah, exactly. I have, we all have a few more years to go. So what did you guys think of sort of the sci-fi elements that were like sort of folded into it? Like, sort of the future discussing, like, I know the author did a Q&A, which I highly recommend after you, if anyone at home wants to read it. I don't think there's not a lot to spoil about it if you haven't. But the author did sort of a Q&A like after it was completed about like sort of why he made the choices to sort of narrow in the scope. And there were definitely a lot of questions about like the world outside of football. I know it's hard to imagine a world outside of football. I know we're all huge fans, but that was one thing. So, what did you guys think of like the world building and sort of the outer, the outer layer of football that enabled football to happen? Yeah,
yeah, and I was like, I wanted more of the details.
You want the hard sci-fi version?
The hard sci-fi, yeah. But then, yeah, once you're pulled in, you're just like, okay, la la la.
I accept this.
Yeah, I know, because that came up in the Q&A where he was like, people have been asking me, like, what about dogs? And it's like, what about dogs? Like, they're fine, probably.
Yeah.
Or, like, I don't know. It kind of branches out a little bit.
Like, I want the world building, not just the end result. Like, how'd we get there, you know?
Yeah,
but I still loved it, and I was just like, okay, I'll just accept it.
Yeah, I kind of like how it's scoped in a little bit on just what he wanted to cover, but I also like, there's some nuggets there that someone could definitely build on. Like every fantasy series kind of has that, right, where you can like, oh, I can make a whole like spin-off from, let's say, just the Hobbits. And you can from there, make your own fan fiction about, there's like so many different open doors to like creating new worlds.
And it was nice.
Go ahead.
It was nice. A lot of times I feel like that sort of exposition, background, in-depth world building stuff can really slow down a story, especially if you're trying to just like vomit it all up in the beginning of a storytelling.
Yeah, the info dump that happens.
Plus. Yeah.
Yeah, Jannae, what did you think of like sort of? Did you like not knowing much about it? Did you find it easy to sort of like pick up? Like, was it like intriguing to get into sort of the sci-fi aspect? Do you usually kind of like those stories?
Oh yeah, I do enjoy sci-fi, although like it'll take me a little bit to get into the world because I just don't understand it. But that's also kind of like what keeps me going because I like want to learn more about it. But so I did not finish reading it.
Uh-oh.
So I did want to.
You forgot your book report.
Yeah, I know. So I do want to know more about like the nanos and like how did we get to this point where people don't age or and like the human race just like people stopped being born. Like I want to kind of know what led up to that. So like don't tell me if we learn more. But yeah, I think it was intriguing. Oh, okay.
Like you said, there's an info dump. It is not a complete info dump.
It's not complete. It's not entirely helpful.
Yeah, it's like a book report written on the last minute. It has most of everything. It doesn't have everything. It definitely doesn't have the end of it.
With the spark notes. So
yeah, like the first chapter's worth of spark notes. Read it. Yeah, or watch it, or both. Yeah, Christina, how about you? Do you like sort of the sci-fi elements of it, or? Are you just a hardcore sports fan? That's all you're really going for.
Oh yeah, you know me. That's what I'm all about. Is all the sports parts. No, sci-fi is probably the main thing I'm tuned in for. I always like seeing different takes on those things, and I'm good with anything from the absurd to like the hard sci-fi where they actually do go into detail. I kind of just reserve judgment until I figure out what kind of story it is, and then I'm like, okay, that's what I'm in for. All right, and then I just commit to that. And I was like, okay, this is meant to be humorous, meant to be, like you said, speculative fiction, so kind of took it more like that than sci-fi exactly, more just like what if. And yeah, I don't know, I enjoy that kind of thing. So yeah, I liked it.
Were there any other like, I guess just going with sports, like any other sports that you'd want to see, like what it would turn into, or like any games or any sort of like, the future sort of end game kind of a thing that you'd want to see like alongside football in some sort of like perpetual existence mode? Like I'd be really curious for like, there's definitely a lot of other sports, but also like crazy hobbies. Like I used to really love like Nitro Circus, and like other like super extreme sports where like you just drive a motorcycle into a canyon and parachute out of it. I'd like to sort of see the future version of that. It was a big like early 2000s.
See the current version of that, so
I'll
be looking at that later.
Oh, like X Games and stuff. It was a big early mid 2000s thing from the 90s. It's like the extreme sports version of like Mythbusters meets sports. Like, what's the most we can possibly do? There was that guy who jumped from the highest possible point. Like, he, like, skydived, but from, like, the atmosphere kind of a thing.
Oh,
There's
the,
just, like
a Red Bull thing.
I was gonna try and avoid the product placement, but it was a Red Bull was very much a part of that exhibition.
That's the only thing I remember.
Yeah, I don't even remember the guy's name. He's just the Red Bull guy. Forever. I hope he got some coin from that, because otherwise, yeah, Red Bull took all the credit for that. But sort of like those extreme sports, like I know they mentioned that like trying to get somewhere from A to B just becomes like a breeze, you know, and you kind of like you want that struggle sort of aspect.
I'm sure that extreme sports are like, I mean, any other sport, I think football was a good one. Like any other one, I can't see how like living forever and being uninjurable can like tennis, it's like, oh, you just play like for a long time, I guess, or you know, baseball is like, well, there's only so far you can hit it. But extreme sports, yeah, I can totally see. Like, I mean, if you can get sucked up into a tornado on purpose during a football game, then I'm sure they're driving motorcycles off of everything, you know.
The moon at that point, right? Like,
yeah,
I know we've nixed space, like
Denali.
Yeah, we've nixed like space travel. Was a part of it where like
not worth it any. You know, we don't have enough materials.
Not when you have football. I mean, that's all you need.
Yeah.
I don't think that was the message, but it was definitely a really interesting sort of thought experiment on like perpetual existence. And I love the Midwestern like sassy attitude that everyone had. You know, of just like. Or not sassy, but like, you know, the good old fashioned like charm of like, oh yeah, just come in, just put on a pot on the stove, talk to a satellite, like it's nothing.
Trying to make friends with everybody in the state, you know, like
like like a good old fashioned story about I lived in the same apartment like after 3,000 years. Who knew? Like
how embarrassing!
I know. Yeah, the casualness was I really enjoyed that. Part of it. I have. Go ahead.
I was just very flippant, dropping those in there. Like, if you had lived that long, like, oh yeah, you might live in the same apartment and not remember it.
Yeah, I mean that'd be weird because I've definitely had deja vu in my own apartment of like, oh yeah, I already did the thing I thought I was gonna do. I can't imagine the 500-year version of that, where like. You want to do something and you remember you already did it like, you know, 2,000 years ago. Like, my bad. Like, oh, I knew that. I knew I forgot something. And then it was just like a few hundred years. I don't know how my memory would hold up, but you know, things would drop out at some point. I would definitely lose.
That's
some
where
knowledge.
like the world building. I'm like, but how are humans' memories affected by this? I'm like, back off,
like,
self.
Does time do they experience time differently? Is like last week, does that feel like a second ago, or is it like 5,000 years is like yesterday? You know what I mean? Like,
I'm like, the brain has limited capacity. What's going on in there, man?
And like computer storage, like, can you imagine all the cell phone photos you would take over 10,000 years? Like, they've gotta have some sort of mega storage for like media, right? Like there's just no. I mean, or would they like go back to like police sketches of everybody, or would they like the Renaissance portraits? Yeah, just to really milk every second of a selfie. You would just like slowly you would revert back to that instead of just like Instagramming everything.
Maybe
the nanos just like repair any damage to your phone or any, you know, memory lack.
They did mention they weren't very smart. You know, they could only make granola bars. when asked to make like a food item. So they're really
that's right.
They have limits.
That part.
Yeah.
The basic.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that like the whole humans living forever, it was a separate thing that happened to the nanos. Like I thought that was interesting, and that's something I forgot upon rereading it. I thought that was a simultaneous. Oh, that explains everything, but it wasn't a catch-all. There's still like that extra baked-in mystery of like what's gonna happen. It's 5 years from now, so everyone strap in for 5 years from now. Who knows. I didn't look up, probably should, if the Juice Explorer is actually launching next year or not. Apparently it's planned to, but this was written before COVID.
I saw that it said 2022, and I was like, oh. And that was one of the things that I was like, ooh, this is like something that I would want to look up, like all the like little history tidbits in there. I think Jannae, your like question list was like, was there anything interesting that you were like, I want to look that up?
It's a perfect transition, because I was going to ask that next.
Yeah, the one I was curious about, and I haven't actually looked it up yet, but I wanted to look up was that cave that fella was in.
The fourth wall cave.
Where's Eddie?
Yeah, the fourth wall cave. Yeah, Eddie. Yeah. Yeah, I was like, okay, well, they made it very clear that this cave is, like, actually pretty deadly. So I was curious, like, wait, is that an actual, like, deadly, cave filled with deadly gases, or what?
I love that. Like, who are you talking to?
Yeah, so it is. So I thought it was funny because, like, the whole reason why I love this story, and I think why a lot of other people who like to look things up on the internet, like, found this story to begin with, which was, like, we sort of glossed over it, but like the way you originally found the story, or at least how I found it, was like someone forwarded you a link to this Sports Nation article on the future of football, which is a real website. They talk about real sports. And this was just there was an actual future of football article, which was about like the sport reckoning with the devastating damage of concussions to the players, the sort of overworkedness of like I love the little cat tail that I'm seeing, Emerald. It's it's distracting, but it's okay.
I love it.
I wasn't gonna say anything, but I had to. Yeah, it's okay. They're gonna live forever too. It's okay. Don't worry about it. Yeah, the cats can play football. Maybe there's cat football, like the puppy bowl.
I would definitely,
the puppy Super Bowl. Have you guys seen that?
Yes. It's the kitten halftime show, right?
Oh yeah, I love it.
It would not work with any other age of cat other than kitten, but it would be very cute. Could you imagine herding enough cats to get a football game going? Boy, that would be exciting.
If the rules can be whatever, then just dump them all anywhere and be like first one to do whatever.
Yeah, I mean, like I do love sort of the creativity bouncing off point to be able to go anywhere, but yeah, so back to the original like thing was like I feel like this story sort of finds people who like to look up little trivia, which is why it speaks to us that you can like look up all these little stories, and it's like that was a building that exists in B, Nebraska. That is a real thing.
A light bulb,
the light bulb.
Oh
which
yeah,
I think is still going.
And I was like, oh, that's so cool that they used it in the story, because I've heard about that on podcasts and stuff. So I was like, oh.
Yeah.
It definitely made me feel like I was 10 or 9. Which one's the one that just woke up?
10.
Yeah. I was like, it's me.
Is it 10? No, it's 9.
Like, wait.
Sorry, it's 9.
Oh, wait, you're right. No, it's 9.
It's 9, the little big sibling, yes.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah, I am a space probe, because I'm like, I read this thing in a book, and now I have to go Google it real quick to see if it's actually real.
Yes.
It is.
Yeah, I think everything was real that they listed, except, interestingly enough, he answered this in the FAQ, there's a story near the end, sorry Jannae, it's a little side story that was thrown out, if you haven't got there yet. I know. But it ended up, it was a very popular story passed around about this kid who was staying overnight in his uncle's apartment in New York City for a job interview, just like staying in New York for a little bit, didn't have a place. And then his uncle, whoever was in the apartment, was going to the NFL, or worked for the NFL, and he was like, oh, I forgot something in my fridge, and it's game day, and we need you to deliver it to us. And he just opens it up, and it's just all the little vials of pee, of urine, because the story goes he was a person who did the drug tests, and so he collected all the vials and then had them tested and then had to like deliver them or something, and so he had to put all of them in his suitcase and take the New York subway with this like suitcase full of human urine of pee, and then was like somebody was like helping him with the suitcase, the New York way of helping, was kind of weighing it up, and then was like, "What's in this?" And he's like, "Computer parts," and then he runs away with the suitcase. But it turns out
he got his suitcase stolen.
Yeah, because he panicked because he didn't want to say he was just carrying around a bunch of human pee. So he came up with computer parts, which of course are very valuable. Whenever the story was, and so some New Yorker that was helping out got away with it. Apparently, that's a very popular, or not a popular story, because like I'd never heard of it. It hasn't been passed around my circles, but apparently that was a very popular story that a lot of people pass around. It's sort of a version of the truth, but there's no like, oh yeah, it happened on this day before this game. There's no like traceable. There's no Wikipedia article, I don't think, or it would be like a disambiguation of the New York City computer parts urine subway story. I haven't found it in a rabbit hole, but yeah, it feels like it speaks to that audience of like wanting to look stuff up. Do any of you guys have like a favorite like thing you found? Christina, you mentioned you'd heard of the light bulb.
I had heard about that. Yeah. I didn't. Like I said, I didn't like. There were things I wanted to look up that I didn't get around to looking up yet. That I was like, oh, I'll look that up later. So I don't have anything that I found per se. But yeah. Anybody else?
You just knew everything.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. No, there were things I wanted to like the cave and like the game. I think they had talked about some games that were set within our current timeline, and I was like, oh okay. I wondered about that.
Don't go in the cave, by the way, everybody.
Yeah.
They did break the fourth wall to be like, hey, you, person who likes to look up internet things and then maybe plan a vacation, don't go to this cave. It really is full of deadly gas. There's no treasure. You will die. And then you'll be that guy. So don't be that guy.
It's like, just brief moment for this disclaimer.
Just hold on. Yeah. Jannae, what have you... sort of, do you have any like bookmarks you're gonna go look up, or?
Oh, yeah, I wanted to look up the thing about the footballs, but that were signed by Kurt
Detmer.
Detmer, yeah,
Kurt something, yeah.
I thought I had like never heard of this person.
I think that's the point.
I guess that's the point. Yeah.
I mean, we're all his biggest fans now.
I don't know.
Yeah, the fan club has expanded. He's
matter.
Now signing more footballs in preparation for this game. I'm pretty sure. Maybe I will stick
That's how
around.
he knows. He's like, soon.
Find out in several thousand years. Winner.
He's like signing them, but for himself.
Yeah, he's playing the football game known as the long game.
Preemptively.
Generational wealth, I think they call it. While we still have generations, apparently.
He's gonna undermine himself though, because the whole value of it is that they were scarce, and so
there weren't very many.
Yeah, the understudy of the understudy is gonna get the next game after him. I wonder. I haven't looked up to see how many people have like. I want to look up the page hits on that guy's Wikipedia page. To see if he has like an extra like addition to the Wikipedia, which was like post 1776 update, maybe. Was wondering about that. It was interesting to see because the way that the story goes, it goes like text of sort of web page of text, so you kind of scroll through, but it also punctuated with like videos because it is mixed media. So when you look at the videos, it's interesting to see they're all unlisted, so you can't like, if you wanted to, you could make a playlist of them, but there's no like, you're meant to sort of come across them as you read the story, for them to make the most sense, or maybe it's fun that maybe there's someone who's watched all of them that hasn't read the story and just had a nice time with that.
Like, what is this?
Yeah. It's okay. I don't need to learn anymore. I've learned everything from these 5 videos with no context.
Yep.
They just got the one with, no, that wasn't, there wasn't a video with the word fart. Oh, that's too bad.
No.
Probably a fan made one at this point. It's like an animation of just somebody getting a text message with the word fart from a satellite. Probably. Someone can get on that.
Yeah, and if they haven't, we could do it. We can do it.
Yeah, totally.
I believe in us.
Yeah, apparently Google Earth was a big tool that John Boyce uses, the author uses to make these videos, and he has a YouTube channel, and he's also with Sports Nation made like a spin-off YouTube channel called Secret Base, where they just delve into all sorts of kinds of stories like this, where it's like really niche sports stories that you're not expected to know. Like they have a show called Weird Rules, where they just look up weird rules, and you just learn like a bunch of really interesting sort of side stories. So this definitely fits into that, but it's definitely like a purely fictional creative offshoot that sort of folds that in. One part of the story that I really enjoyed was these like hyper fixations on these like parts of U.S. sort of Americana stories and geography and like little towns, and like it just reminds me of like that was one like quote that they had was like every time you zoom in, there's a story. So what did you guys think of that? And do you have like what like a hometown story or like something that would like interesting trivia that you sort of hold on to, or like this is interesting to no one, but maybe someone's gonna ask me about this. Maybe I'll have a really fun time at party talking about this building that was made out of sidewalks, maybe. So yeah, what did you guys think of the little sort of small town tidbits of things? Or do you have any history buffs of like small town America?
I majored in history, but it wasn't small town America.
Oh, so. Well, you could just be the new professor at this point.
Sorry. But I did want to say that, building on that, and also Jannae just said bookmarks. I like, and you just mentioned the part of the story. I didn't take 8 pages of notes or whatever you did, but one of the things I did write down is when the player Nancy is visiting with, she's like, can I hang out, have a cup of tea here while I hide or whatever. And
I carried his football across the state of Nebraska.
The entire state. This tornado just dropped me here in your weird sidewalk building town.
Crazy.
But and she's the one who says there's stories everywhere, or everywhere everyone has a story, which is a really cool sentiment. And the one thing I wrote down is what the person says back, which is, I think I'm a bookmark. And I was like, that just really struck my funny bone. I liked that.
Yeah.
In the stories of life, he's like, I think I'm a bookmark.
Yeah, and that it did provide an interesting contrast. I guess, like, something that stood out to me about those little, like, those small town discussions was when they started talking about how, not every place has been walked on, or it's only been walked on by a very few number of people, and it's like, wait, how can that be? It seems like everybody's been everywhere. And then they talked about like, yeah, but people just they don't go that way, because why would they don't have any reason to go somewhere that isn't like on their way to somewhere else or whatever.
There's
and they're
a
like,
sidewalk there,
right? And they're like, who would do it? And that's when it got kind of like grim, where it was like kids would do that, like and they kind of, and that was like a more sober moment. I guess it's a little off topic, but that's what it made me think of. So that was a more sober moment, was with that lack of children in their world kind of changed the way they interacted with their world.
Yeah, because they mentioned the fact that like there's no more sort of generational change. I really like that section because you could see in the background, that was when they had all those coupons for like the Chevy Plymouth Voyager. I don't know if you caught that, but like
the ad.
You could see them staying the same from like 1979 or something to like 1998 or something. It was just the same truck, like suburban van, just slightly different every single year for like 20 years, and then like eventually it was discontinued. But it was just like, like with lacking like generational sort of change and that spark.
Right. How do you move forward and keep growing and changing? That was that only.
I guess.
Yeah, I guess that.
Yeah.
That's the only other thing that I took note of is that within those ads, when it has the writing that said like you can only hold grand ambitions for so long before you're tired or whatever. I was like, ooh.
Yeah. Because I think all of us are of the generation where we were gifted kids and then just mediocre adults because no one's really that gifted. And so it's kind of like, well, so what do you do with, like, all this promise and then, like, nowhere really to go?
Just drop it. Just drop it. Just give it. It's heavy.
Just watch some football. Just turn on the TV.
Yeah,
and watch some football. I do love
fire huge things off of a mountain.
Yes, I love the Denali game. Shout out to basically the lottery but in physical form with the giant cannonball shot from Denali to the continental United States. That one was a lot of fun because I loved it because that was about like metagaming. Because I don't know if you guys watch like reality TV competitions and stuff, but it had very much that vibe where like it's all arbitrary who wins what. Because
like a great race, it's just like who's closest geographically, it's like it's all random.
Yeah, who makes the best cupcakes based on a song, kind of a thing. It's like, I don't know, I can't taste it, but they can, so they can just decide whatever. But like you metagame it to be like, okay, they've shown us this shot, they're really focusing on this person's storyline. Okay, but they're really focusing on this person's lack of time, so does that mean they're giving them the underdog sort of twist to it? Like, there's all this sort of metagaming. So I like that fed into, like, whoever the beholder of the cannon, I don't remember the title, but whoever fires the cannon, they're like, okay, this person has, like, gone on a pattern of, like, you try and, like, map out where they've put the cannonballs, and then trying to decide,
right, well, like in the past, this one, oh, well, they went to this high school, maybe that'll, it's just like,
they seem to really like aiming for this mountain range where it gets really hard to find, kind of a thing. I love sort of that aspect of like the cannonball, and then I loved the story of, I don't remember her name, but it was it wasn't Nancy. The one
who never, was like the bad luck who never got him.
Yeah, like Lucy in the football, Charlie Brown that just never got it after 10,000 years, and then like got the worst ball possible that destroyed like a national treasure.
I know, she's still forever gonna be associated with horrible luck. So
that's true. Good point.
Yeah, I did love that they mentioned that it's like there are people who have gone viral multiple times because people forget and then they just like resurface. She's like that person that like every so many years like somebody comes across a story, it blows up on Twitter for a few minutes and then like everybody goes back to normal. She's like that person.
Wait, she hasn't won any in like 10,000 years.
Yeah, can you believe?
Gotta get her on the show.
Yeah, that was sad, but I love that they just like found like a whole page to just roast Burger King for no reason. Like out of like this really suspenseful zooming in on like they're like, oh no, and like you don't know what they're zooming in on or what's gonna happen. It's like there's some moments of actual suspense from like a 5-minute YouTube video, which I wasn't like, you don't usually expect. And then like out of nowhere they're just like roasting Burger King in the future. For just no reason.
It's like, really who would run across those lawn? Children.
Yeah.
And you're sad. And then they're like, so Burger King sucks.
Can you believe they use hockey pucks as patties?
Right. What do they call that goop on top? Just give me everything except the patty.
Right.
I know. That was really
levity to serious. I was like,
like they did a good job of like you gotta like balance out the existential like, oh my god, we've done nothing with 15,000 years.
What do you do when like time has no meaning?
Yeah, I mean it did give good perspective because like I've had weekends, especially during the pandemic, where I'm like, what did I do? What did I do? It's been 5 days. What have I done? I slept. Did I eat? I think I ate. I'm still here. And then you just, like, time just, like, blinks by, and you're just like, how do you recompense the fact that, like, you haven't used that time? So this gave a good, like, sort of building perspective on, like, in the future, when they have infinite time, can you really waste it? Because you can't, like, it's infinite, right? To them, but I haven't, so there are apparently sequels. There is 200, there's 20200, which is a follow-up to 17776. 17776? So apparently there is a sequel. I have not read it yet. Apparently it's the future of college football, where it's going. That just came out last year. So I have not read that, but there is apparently more to unfold. Which could be interesting. We'll have to see how that would go. Yeah. Do you guys have any, like, small town stories? Not to put you on the spot, of, like, little trivia tidbits.
Oh gosh, I think mine are like kind of they're grisly because I came from a small town, and it's just like a lot of bad stuff happened there, like an unusual number of bad things. Yeah, that's pretty much what I'll say.
That's true. It was nice to hear a version of that where it's all the nice stuff.
Yeah.
Like, usually the stories you hear are like, did you hear someone was axe murdered in the woods, like, 30 years ago? And you're like, oh my god. But, like, it's fun to hear
like,
that, like...
they were like,
the townspeople came together.
And, you know, so they used the supplies to build this weird building.
Yeah, I did like that version of it. I also think it's funny because, like, half my family is from Nebraska, and, like, not a lot of fiction is focused on Nebraska. I guess we'll say that. Field of Dreams, like sports. That's how you make it.
In Iowa?
They were trying to get to Iowa, I think.
Oh, okay.
The tornado didn't quite get there. The tornado didn't quite make it, but it was going that way, I think. I forget the end zones were,
that was one of the end zone, right?
Yeah, I think so. I don't remember all the rules of that one. I think it was just a free-for-all. Any means, no holds barred, get from Iowa to...
What's on the other side?
I was trying to do it in my head, I don't know. I think Colorado, maybe?
Somebody give me a map!
Colorado, yeah. I think they're coming my way. Oh, and then, like, what happens when two games collide? What happens if, like, a game tries to go through game 27? Like, what would happen? Would that be an interference? Like,
I think our brains would all explode. I know. Our brains would explode.
Maybe. I guess last one. Hopefully it'll be a little bit of a fun one. To finish up. We had some technical difficulties. So we were going to end at 8, but I think we'll go a little bit longer to make up for the lost transmissions that we had into the void earlier when our stream went down. I liked how they mentioned what was going with the space probes out. It's that one, like, old, like, drawing of, like, two people wearing no clothes for some reason. I guess they didn't want to date it, but they did anyways. So I guess, like, what would you send with the space probe to be like, this is, like, I guess it would have to, American, I think we're all American. What, like, would it be a piece of Americana? Would it be a piece of the world? Like, what would you want to send out? Would you send a football and make it the world's longest, like, thrown football? Like,
that's a good one. I like that.
Like, what would you want to be on your satellite 11, or whatever comes next?
And I kind of want to send this story. So I'm gonna send the future of football.
Mm-hmm.
Out
so not the word fart.
Also the word fart. Okay. I mean, let's be.
That's the opener. That's the cold open. And then the meat of the story.
Fart. All bold. Yeah, and then into the story.
And, like, the funny thing is, if you just have the word fart, they don't know what that is. So if you could do like a good old fashioned like sound file, that might be better.
I like it. You're really improving this.
Maybe that's gonna be the aliens like version of like melancholy. They're gonna be really sad. Maybe it's not funny for them. Despite
it's just like a scribble.
Yeah, true. Maybe they don't have ears.
I feel like there would need to be, at this point, I feel like the internet needs to be captured somehow, the internet experience. And so you'd have to put some just wild half-baked memes in there and like an emoji guide, like in
It's
this
like
year,
like
this
one of the
emoji was
first
used.
YouTube videos,
Oh
maybe.
god.
Yeah.
Are we doing like
sure.
troll face or what?
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
Well, you probably need, it'd be like a
I like
history.
my yeah, like some of that.
Yeah.
I still like Doge. Doge may have gone out of fashion, but it's still
Yeah.
alive in my heart. I
Doge
would
is
like a
never out of
Doge.
fashion.
Yeah, that's valid, yeah.
Like a squished JPEG of a Shiba Inu, I think I would have. With
And
the
then-
word like
and it
much
just says,
wow
like,
and
much wow.
pink over
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
So solar system.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very probe.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. That would definitely
support
be up
that.
there. Jannae, what would you like future civilizations to know? Not necessarily about you, but about life on Earth, or maybe not.
I don't know. I like the memes idea. I would definitely include the can I has cheeseburger.
Yes.
And then like a follow-up with a picture of the cat with the cheeseburger, like he can has cheeseburger. So there's like the full story.
Yes.
They're not like left in.
Disappointed.
I
Yeah.
want to look
Perpetual
up. I want to
wondering.
say.
Sarah, you said you were buying a car today. I stayed.
Sorry, there was some background audio that popped up, but it was one thing that I might want to like. Yeah, there was JPEG. I was thinking of like the origins of I can have cheeseburger. Did that not come from Seattle? Somebody created the website here, or am I thinking of the oatmeal? I think I'm thinking of the oatmeal. The oatmeal was the guy who was like, how to tell if your cat's trying to murder you.
Oh, yeah.
Emerald, that might come in handy for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the oatmeal, the guy that wrote the oatmeal comic came from here. So maybe we'll give them a guide on how to tell if their cat is planning to murder them, and then they can learn about cats and about humans all in one.
True.
And along with that
combo.
Yes, that along with Doge, I think will give them the full knowledge.
Everything they need.
Yeah, cats, dogs, and people.
We should include a quiz then with it. Like, are you answer these 10 questions, and we'll tell you if you're a cat person or a dog person.
Oh right, yeah, like.
But none of the questions are about cats or dogs. It's like,
a bit like a
pick your
BuzzFeed.
favorite purse.
BuzzFeed,
Yeah, like a BuzzFeed, like a mood board. Is that what they called? I think so, because you don't know if they speak English or read English. So just a picture of what picture of a flower that they click, it'll be the only perhaps true honest answer to those surveys, because we all kind of know where they're going, but for them it'll be new. We'll show them a picture of a football and be like, which football is your, like, you're perfectly
spirit animal
and perfectly encapsulate you, and so we'll just show them like 4 different pictures of football, and they just choose one because they don't know. They can't read what they're trying to do with the football. They'll just pick one. It'll be the perfect like blind test for our memes.
Yes.
For the future.
And that way, like, we'll finally have closure on, like, which game in the future of football is the best one. Is it game 27? Which one is it? I don't know.
I might be biased, broadcasting live from game 27.
Yeah, it's great. I stayed there one time. No, I didn't.
I have one I was gonna pick for when the question of like which game was. I was gonna pick game 27. I have thoughts about that. I like it.
It's an excellent game. I also really like Juice's like enthusiasm.
Very enthusiastic.
Yeah, the author in his Q&A was like really enjoyed that part, because like that's when you really, because like it's funny to be sort of that guy that really jokes around in the group chat, but then you actually get passionate about something, and that sort of tells you something about them, about why they like something, right? That's why I like reading like nonfiction or looking up these like weird YouTube series about something somebody really loves, because you really get an appreciation for something where you're like, oh, this sounds interesting, but like you really care about it.
Yeah,
so
right.
now
Like,
I want to know more.
like carries over, and you're like, why?
Yeah, there's so many topics like that where like sports, like I don't particularly enjoy or follow sports. Like, I played them, but I've never enjoyed watching them. But, like, something about the way that John Boyce, like, tells his stories and, like, finds the weirdest, most fun sports stories makes me, like, appreciate it even more. Of, like, of course, like, this happened in football 40 years ago, and they're still talking about it in the future because it's just so weird and anomalous and will never happen again. Like, the quote about one of the first quotes that was put in there, because I loved how much everything fit together, where, like, the probes were built in, like, 1968 or whatever was, like, the first one. And so there, it had, like, apparently, I didn't look this up. I didn't look up the teams as much as the fun factoids because there's a lot to unpack when you look up a sports team. But I like that, like, the Cleveland Browns were apparently really good before then, and then just have immediately been the worst team ever since. And so I love that Nine didn't know that because of the knowledge. Was just like, oh yeah, it's great. Like you know, you last check in with something and then you move away and you don't pay attention to it for a few years, and then you check back in and you're like, oh, things have like you leave an old job and then you check back in on how that company's doing, and it's like, oh, I left at the right time. I left at the right time.
Like like coming back to I from what I understand, certain TV shows that maybe the last seasons of them weren't so great, but I checked out like third season and I was like, it was fine when I left, and I'm like, oh, so season 8 is terrible, huh? Cool, interesting.
Good thing I didn't go farther.
Yeah, I think that was a good choice that your past self made to make your current self a lot happier.
Way to go, past Christina. Looking out.
Yeah. Any other thoughts we want to chat out? Any other details that like really attached to you, but that we didn't really like? I do actually have notes. From it's not the whole notebook, but I do have some notes here. Here the lovely rustling pages. Do any of you have any like final thoughts or parts that you really liked? You know, that we haven't talked about, or that like keep you up at night, perhaps.
I don't know about keep me up at night, but I was gonna add like an additional thought about some of the stuff they talked about Game 27 and sort of. Well, I'm not even sure if it was just about Game 27, but the idea basically that the game where it's at that moment in time when we join the story is after they basically had just kept adding more and more rules into the game to the point where they could start to find ways to justify just ridiculous things where they're like, well, I guess it's technically because we have this weird obscure rule and this other rule, you can do this crazy stuff. And I'm like, this kind of it just reminded me of like governments and that sort of thing, where it's just like we just keep building more rickety structures on top of their structures, and it just gets weirder and more surreal. I thought that was really interesting because I was like, yeah, that is kind of what happens if you don't clear the playing field, so to speak. Like you end up with just a really strange thing.
Bizarre, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he did mention that like presidents apparently keep terms every 4 years, even though time lasts forever. They just like rotate out. So like every like 10th person or something has been president.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a fun little anecdote where like it was a little sidebar that he didn't fit in, with all the football. But apparently there was a president who just woke up and mowed the lawn every day and then went back inside, and that was his dude. That's what he decided was president at that point because there was no other conflict.
No, they've solved all the problems.
Yeah.
How are you going to spend your time?
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, mowing the lawn is a good answer. Definitely a lot more to do as president now. So that wouldn't work. But that was a fun little like, so like there still is some sort of like, it's literally just theater at this, like political theater at this point of like, we have nothing to do, but we would like someone to sit here and call themselves the president just for us, just for our sake, just for old time's sake. That is a pretty fun detail. Jannae, do you have anything you're looking forward to in the last part of the story where you're at?
I want to learn about this cave and like how it comes into the story, like why it's mentioned and stuff like that. I want to look up where it is too. Very curious.
But don't go there.
But I will not go there.
Do that.
And do you have anything you're looking forward to in the next 15,000 years also? So,
yeah, for when we all inevitably make it that far.
Oh. Yeah. Oh, I don't know.
Football is the easy
Yeah,
answer, but I'll let
what
you...
would the future of football actually look like, and how does it compare to this speculative future of football?
Yeah, it does. I don't know if ironically or if it could be on purpose. Who knows? Since the original article was about the devastating impact of concussions on its players, the nanos solved that problem. So collisions aren't a problem anymore. So there's no more like horrific psychological consequences to playing lots and lots and lots of football.
They're only a problem if the concussion makes you fumble the ball.
If a tornado didn't make her fumble the ball, I'm thinking, Nancy's
probably
pretty
fine.
Good. Yeah, she's Iron Nancy, as we call her.
But she's one of the best. So,
Yeah, I love that he was like, he mentioned a little bit, like he didn't sort of get into the details of like people and their like identities, and whatnot.
How they can like choose what age they want to be, basically.
Yeah, but he did like mention that like, why wouldn't half the football players roughly be female? And like he didn't really get a chance to dig into like how people sort of identify themselves, like if like, gender like non-conforming or like non-binary people exist in this world. He admittedly like didn't have a lot of time to delve into that. He like one of the satellites that just became sort of not a person, but sort of became sentient, had to decide that for themselves. And all that, but unfortunately a lot of like sci-fi and video game tropes is like the non-binary representation is like a non-human entity, because that's an easy way to sort of explain it as like, oh, you're a robot, so like you can identify as you want, but it's like people can do that too. People have thoughts and feelings and emotions. So what did you guys sort of think about that, in terms of like how people themselves maybe change or think about themselves with that much time, I guess?
That's a good question. I feel like, on the one hand, I want to say that people would become more and more abstract in their identities, but on the other hand, I know that there's data that shows that, older people tend to be more conservative and that sort of thing, and so they might be more traditionalist. I don't know. I feel like maybe it would come in waves, and that people would enforce gender binaries for a period of time, and then they'd be like, no, we're tired of that. We've been doing that for several 100 years or 1,000 years. Now let's go back to, maybe it would become trending. I don't know.
I mean, there's no more birth certificates.
Like pantsuits.
Right.
There's no more birth certificates, so we can just throw that out the window. We don't have to worry about that anymore.
Yeah.
Those aren't relevant anymore. And since there's like the biological issues wouldn't be as big like of a question anymore, people wouldn't care that much about that.
Right, because you literally can't have kids. So.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and apparently you can get divorced, which is kind of sad. Right. But, I mean, that would happen. Like, most vampire stories. This is almost a vampire story, but with no, like, vampirism, where, like, usually it's, like, the vampire that, like, lives forever and is very moody about the fact that they can't, like, fall in love for more than, like, 5 years before they're, like, whatever, like, 18-year-old. It gets too old, for them. Like... kind of a deal. So this like kind of dealt with that aspect. I'm not saying this is a better love story than Twilight.
Long-term non-lethal vampirism.
Yeah, I mean it's sort of that's the only example I could think of. Or like sometimes alien races can like live forever and then other races don't, like humans, which are flying towards the sun at all times, all the time. My little sidebar that I found was a literal sidebar when I looked up this story, because right before he wrote this, he didn't write the future of football article, but he did write one that said there is no future of baseball, which I thought was funny. I know, fighting words for baseball fans.
Yeah.
Which apparently the average viewing age of a baseball fan is 56 on average.
Wow,
on average.
So they're already in the future. They're already they're making their own future of baseball. Just wait for those nanos, and then who knows what baseball what happens if a baseball and a football collide midair? Well, who knows? We'll find out when people play like extreme golf baseball from like frisbee baseball instead of frisbee golf. Like, who knows? But there was a literal sidebar that was like the milk crate challenge is apparently a thing going on right now, and that like sort of reinforced the idea that like if we had infinite time, of course we would just play football. Like, if what we're doing with all of our time now is finding milk crates that we can climb and then fall over on in spectacular ways, now with our limited time and very fragile human selves, of course we would like throw ourselves in front of a cannonball to play football. Like, of course.
Yeah.
It seemed to make a lot of poetic sense, at least to me anyway. So I thought that was a fun sidebar closing statement for our future of football as Americans. So I hope you all enjoyed this book club. I certainly enjoyed having someone other than myself and my cat to talk to about it. This was a really fun piece for me to reread and remember all the fun details that I just sort of enjoyed the experience the first time. Now I actually got to sort of delve into more of the ideas about it with you all. So thank you all for joining me. Thank you all at home for joining us through the technical difficulties. We really appreciate it. And yeah, hope you enjoyed. Our next stream is coming up on Thursday. It'll be Christina and I. I think I'm the one that's playing, but we're both going to be there to experience the sport of dodgeball in Dodgeball Academia.
What does that look like in the future?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, no spoilers, but, well, kind of spoilers.
Same? Like, the same. Like, you travel cross country with a ball and
there is a character, there is a character Jannae hasn't met yet, who does play the super old-fashioned video games that are apparently still working. So maybe they'll have, like, you know how they have remakes and now they have demakes? Well, they remake current games in, like, the old, like, 8-bit format. Maybe. But this is a current-gen extreme dodgeball game with sports in probably school. I haven't been to school, but apparently we're nearing back to school. So that's sort of going to be our theme. We're going to learn how to dodgeball along with the kids this Thursday at 7 p.m. on this very channel. So thank you for joining us, and hope you enjoyed this and the future of football, whatever that means to you in your heart.
What matters.
Yeah. Have a good night, everyone. Bye-bye.
Good night.